Okay, good evening, everyone. This is our third installment of the quarterly South Carolina Section Town Hall. And let's see, I think we have some guests this evening. Let's see if they come up on the screen and we'll do some introductions and be on our way. Okay. Maybe we're not going to find out who's here this evening. Seriously, I think that we should have Vice Director Bill Marine into CLP. There he is. Good evening, Bill.
Hey, good evening, Mark, and everybody in the Palmetto State.
Hey, we're here just having all the fun we can have down here in South Carolina this evening. Let's see, is Jim with us? Jim Boner, the Roanoke Division Director.
And how's everybody this evening? Welcome to the South Carolina live stream. I'm your Roanoke Division Director, but I'm also in the South Carolina. Good evening, everybody.
Okay, and let's see if the evil genius behind this whole thing is out there somewhere. Technical Coordinator Brad Humphreys, AE4VJ. There he is. Let's see. Is Gordon with us this evening?
Look at there. Full house tonight.
I sure am.
Good to see you,
Full house
Gordon.
tonight.
For those of you who haven't met Gordon, he is our public information coordinator for the South Carolina section and a guy who enjoys fast food and is doing so right now. Hey, everybody's got to be somewhere, and the beauty of a live stream is you can be almost anywhere, even McDonald's. All right, Brad, is that tonight's panel? Have I missed anyone?
I believe it is, unless Billy shows up. I sent it to him a little late. I don't know if anybody's talked to him, so he might pop in a little bit later.
I exchanged emails with him. I don't know if he ate something that made him sick or what, but he said he might not be here. He was a little under the weather.
Okay. Well, you want to do the section report? We'll go ahead and get that out of the way, and we can get down to business.
Yeah, go ahead.
Roll on.
Do it. Roll it.
Greetings to all amateur radio operators. This is Mark N4UFP with the South Carolina Section Manager's Report for April 2022. Please note that the section report and other information on amateur radio can be found at arrl.sc.org. First, information on upcoming Hamfests in South Carolina. The Gaffney Hamfest will be held on October 22nd, 2022 at 204 West O'Neill Street, Gaffney, South Carolina, and is sponsored by the Carolina Amateur Radio Emergency Services. Hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, contact Jim Fagan, KI4MJK at 864-490-6369 or KI4MJK at gmail.com. If anyone has a Hamfest coming up in our section, please let me know, and I will include it in my next report and post it on the section webpage. I am still looking for an amateur in our section to take over as section traffic manager. An acceptable candidate for the STM appointment must be familiar with traffic handling, hold a technician class license or higher, and have full ARRL membership. The STM is responsible for traffic handling programs at the section level and preparing and submitting accurate monthly net reports to the section manager and to ARRL HQ. If you are interested, please contact me at 803-487-1115 or mtarpley@comporium.net. The South Carolina Field Organization will be doing another live stream event June 6, 2022 at 8 p.m. Our topics will be Field Day 2022 and the 2022 Dayton Hamfest. However, our panel could easily be induced to cover other topics as well. We hope to have all the usual suspects on board on our panel and perhaps a mystery guest or two. FEMA recently ran the FEMA RECCWG Region 4 and Region 6 Communications Outage Exercise beginning May 31st, 2022 at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and ending June 1st, 2022 at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The scenario for this exercise was a cyber attack on Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, Texas, Miami, Florida, and Little Rock, Arkansas. Although none of the targeted cities is in our section per se, South Carolina's Chester, Lancaster, and York counties are part of the Charlotte Metropolitan Statistical Area. In my next monthly report, I hope to include a summary after-action report. The North Augusta Belvedere Amateur Radio Club provided support for the 2022 Run United Half Marathon. 163 runners completed the 13.1-mile course this year, with times ranging from 1 hour, 13 minutes, 46 seconds, to 3 hours, 12 minutes, 42 seconds. The race organizers were very pleased with the support given by the members of the North Augusta Belvedere Radio Club, and I would like to thank the members of the club who volunteered their time to help with this event. Public service and community support are an important aspect of our hobby. The end of spring marks the beginning of the sporadic e-propagation season on the 6-meter band. Steadily improving solar conditions will create more and better opportunities for smaller stations to work DX on 6 meters. Case in point, I recently operated 6 from grid Echo Mike 92 using 100 watts and a ZS6 BKW antenna at a height of 41 feet. In 3 days, I worked over 100 stations, including some in South America and the Caribbean. The takeaway? This summer is likely going to be a good time to get on 6. Put some wire up in the air and see what happens. Until next month, 73, Mark, N4UFP.
There you go. Jim just gets up and walks away.
No, Bob, Bill told me last night there was a problem with my audio, and I have an air conditioner in the shack. So while Mark was giving his report and everybody was muted, I thought I'd cool down the room a little bit.
Yeah, I have to turn mine off too.
Yeah, me as well. Okay, well, that was exciting. And, you know, it's so weird watching those, Brad. You know how I hate to do that.
Well, that's probably the only one you've actually watched.
No, I think the last time we did this, we included a section report and I watched it. It's painful. I can't.
I just want to know if Brad, do you set up a teleprompter?
Well, you know, it's been through many iterations. We at one point I held the piece of Mark when we were doing it at his house. He'd print it out in big on like cardstock and would hold it up and just kind of run, and that worked for a while.
Cue cards.
Yeah, and then we would tape it up sometimes, and then you'd see him start getting down here. I'm like, well, that's not working. So I bought a new TV last fall, and my old TV's out here in the garage now, and I have this stand, and it fits perfectly on that. And we figured out in Word to separate it into 2 columns where the camera's in the middle, and we've got it about down. So if it's more than 2 pages, you know, we might have to pause and readjust, but it's actually been working pretty good.
Sounds great.
If it's a long report, the font gets smaller and it makes it more of a challenge to read. I'm thinking I need a special pair of glasses just to read that damn thing.
Yeah, it's a 50-inch TV, and it keeps having to come closer and closer.
Oh well, it's age and vision problems. We all get them.
You know, the other option, Brad, I could just make the whole thing up as I go along.
How would we know?
You know, I shudder to think what that would be. It might be funny. I don't know. Just do the whole
How
thing.
much
as
scotch
simple
we
as-
had.
Yeah, well,
Well,
the
here
rule
comes,
there.
here,
we
comes
don't-
the, here comes the blooper reel.
well, he's got one of those.
What he doesn't know is after we get done, I just start the recording, just kind of let it roll. You know.
Yeah, we normally don't open the Macallan until after we're done because it wouldn't help us while we were working on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, Brad. I think we're ready for a date and recap, aren't we? From Jim N2ZZ.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure who the audience is. I see at least 5 people here, but just wanted to say hello to everybody. And Dayton is a great time of year. And for those people that do the Dayton thing, we also know that it's no longer in Dayton. The Dayton Hamvention is in Xenia, but they do it at the Greene County Fairgrounds. And those of us who are veterans of the arena was just phone call already. There we go. It's a good thing to have the Apple Watch. Just do a call later. But anyway, was very good this year. It's been off for 2 years. The last one was in 2019. COVID took its toll for 2 years, so 2020 and 2021 did not meet. But 2022, as I saw the final numbers, they were up to 31,000 plus, and that was probably about 1,000 less than 2019. But all I can say is everybody was there. They kind of didn't feel that there was much of a difference. Of course, we've been into a situation with COVID and we've been without masks. And I'm sorry to say that I had a great time at Dayton, but I brought home an unwelcome visitor, which was COVID, and got that about 2 days or 3 days after I returned. But fortunately, it was a mild case. I'm happy about that. But didn't really see very many people that were sick or coughing or whatever at the Hamvention. I was part of the ARRL team that was there and supported the Hamvention as part of the ARRL Expo. My particular booth, I was with the volunteer examiners, the VEC of ARRL, and it was with Maria Soma, AB1FM, and also the same booth was the volunteer monitoring booth with Riley Hollingsworth, KZ3D8. I'm going to bust his call. In any case, everybody knows who Riley is, and it was a lot of fun there. We helped a lot of people, saw a lot of people. It's kind of an interesting thing because as I see everybody on here, probably everybody does a lot more with VE exams than I do, but I volunteered for three booths. They gave me the VE booth, and I think it was the most fun of them all. So as far as Dayton, I think that as far as a report, let's see, what are the interesting things? Those of you that have an expert amp, that is the SPE amplifiers, Bob Hardy, who is the pretty much the only person in the United States that could repair those linears, they're now selling the business to Vibraplex. Scott at Vibraplex will be taking that on. He's actually looking for a tech to be able to handle the repairs for the SPE amplifiers. That was kind of an interesting thing. But there are a lot of people that are aging out of certain things and moving to a different venue. As far as exhibits and the rest, I did do a lot. One of my main things now is working with Aries Oxcom in the subcommittee for the league, and visited both of those forums. Had a great time with both. We have a new emergency manager, Josh Johnston, who is from Louisiana and was an emergency manager, and had a really good time speaking with John Peterson, also of the Oxcom fame. So it was a good experience for me, but I do encourage, if anyone has not had a chance to get to Dayton, to at least put it on your bucket list. As I look through this is pretty much my yearly visit, and other than the last 2 years, I think I've been there every year since 1994. So as far as anything else, I'll be happy to answer any questions about it. But from this, I'm going to send it back to Brad.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Or Mark.
Hey, Brad, you snooze, you lose. So
I am the one driving here, so
that's true. He can just make me disappear at any time.
Lip.
I'm glad the turnout was good. Sorry to hear about the COVID thing. Hopefully, as things get better over the next couple of years, Dayton will get back to its former glamour and glory. We'll see what happens.
Only being about 1,000 off from 2019 is really not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine there's probably some that we're just itching to get out and go.
Yeah. I think after 2 years, people were just ready to go to the Hamfest, and they went. And I'm glad the turnout was good. That's good for the amateur community. It's good for the club that sponsors the Hamfest. That will provide I'm sure, the very necessary cash flow to keep that thing going in the future.
I hope we have a rebound for the South Carolina Hamfest as well.
Yeah, the good news is the only Hamfest on the books right now is the Gaffney Hamfest, and that is, I believe, October 22nd. Runs, I think, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. I should know this. I put it in the section report. It's at a church. I think it's a Baptist church, 204 West O'Neill Street in Gaffney. That's the only Hamfest I know about in South Carolina. I keep
That's
looking.
right. That's right off the 85, right there next to the Beechwood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's easy to find.
It's not hard to. It's easy to get to. I was there last year, and given the pandemic and everything else, they actually had a pretty good turnout for a small Hamfest. But yeah, Jim, I'm a little bit worried about Hamfest in South Carolina. We didn't have any that were real large, well-attended Hamfests. I think the three largest were probably Upstate, Charleston, and Rock Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in that 150 to 300 paid attendance range. And then everything else is very small and very local, even down to small tailgate parties that attract 15 or 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Myrtle Beach is officially not having a Hamfest this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, here's a guy we can ask. Gordo, is that the case?
That was the case at the last meeting. Wireman wanted a guaranteed dollar volume, and it was apparently more than the club was willing to guarantee. So, and he's our major vendor. We get in 200, 300 people in range, and, I understand it's a business decision. I think not having had a Hamfest for 2 years, we could have surprised some people, but, the executive committee made their decision.
Yep, and we've got a comment from George Mudd. Thanks, George. And he points out that a lot of folks are having swap fests, and that's absolutely the case. I think about some of these small events. The one in Gaffney, Chester has a small swap fest, especially outdoor swap fests. They certainly are a lot of fun. People bring stuff, and it addresses some of the issues associated with COVID. So I suspect we'll see more of those small local swap fests, perhaps, as opposed to large 200, 300, 400 person Hamfest till things get back to normal. Anyway, I don't want to get off track here, Brad. I think
No, you're good. We're good.
The next thing on our agenda tonight is Field Day, is it not?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the Field Day. The Field Day. You like that?
Yeah, I like
What do
that.
you like?
It's kind of like my wife's alma mater, the Ohio State University.
Yeah, it's not much. I was looking through when the Q Street came in this month, and we're glad the paper is back to its normal
Real
pristine
paper.
self. Yeah, it's not toilet paper anymore. It's good back to the good glossy stuff, which does not make good toilet paper.
You sound like you have some experience in that area.
Well, I mean, think about it. It's slick. What do you think?
Yeah, I miss the Sears catalog also.
Right. So you guys know what I'm talking about. But like on page 65, they got like a 10-page excerpt of really good field day information. From tips for success, the safety and bonus points, little charts right here. This is really, really good stuff. And I tried to find this exactly on the website. I couldn't, which would be nice. Maybe I can scan it and we can put it up somewhere. I don't know if they'd be upset with that, but Jim, can you give me the okay for that?
No, but sometimes it's just better to ask forgiveness later.
Ask for forgiveness. Yeah. And permission.
Well,
But
Brad,
I mean, they go through simple field day antennas, and for new hams and non-hams, it's really good stuff. And then you got the checklist at the back to work all states, and also part of the packet that they have on the website is really good. The field day logging software, and I know they're still taking some paper logs this year. Is that correct?
That I don't know.
I've got some
But-
of the documentation says paper logs, but I thought they were getting away from that.
All I remember is having to do dupe checking with paper was probably the worst experience of my life when I first started this. So I hope even if someone is not computer literate, I've used the N3FJP software, and most of the places we visited on the field day sites have it. And it does everything for you. I mean, all you have to do is make the contacts, and it does the tabulation, tells you when you're outside the boundaries, and at the end of it, it's probably 5 minutes to be able to set up the Cabrilla log and sending it in. Now that may be the same thing with all the others, but that one if someone in your club has got any sort of ability at all, just put him as a logger, because you will be much happier than trying to do dupe checking.
I agree. I don't know why anybody would want to do paper logging at all, because you're right. That process, and then just the instant looking, see what your score is, see how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and that software is probably the easiest. The N1MM, it's free, but it's complicated. It does a lot. Some of these others I'm not sure of, but they even got some that run on iOS and Android. So there's a lot of options out there. But a key is to get it now and start playing with it so you know it. You don't want to do this on contest day. Get all this stuff set up and test it out. It's kind of like going out in the woods and just forgetting your pants. We don't want that. The aggregate club score. So here's something that I remembered, and I remember when we tried this in 2020. Because Mark, I know when I tried to do it for the club here in aggregate scores, and if there is one misspelling, well, that's a totally different club. You got to enter that in exactly. So that is a real hot button. There might be a better way to do this, but they already know this works. So, just be careful when you put it in, and probably at a club meeting, everybody needs to get together and say, this is how it's going to be verbatim. Copy and paste this into the applet when you load it. That way there's no confusion. There's some other stuff on here that I thought was interesting. Where if you do an aggregate score, you can get credit to along with the club. So it's a twofer. It's a twofer. That's all good. And there's your map. It's handy to have just for giggles. And that's about it. But I really liked what they had in QSD. I haven't seen that in the past few years, talking specifically about field day and some stuff you need. 10 pages with really good information. So if you're not a league member, maybe you could find this on the newsstand somewhere and go pick that up. Just for that would probably be worth the, what are they charging now? Let's say it on there. Nope. It's free. Here you go.
Probably not at Barnes and Noble.
Probably not at Barnes and Noble. It's probably not at Publix. I don't know if there's a newsstand left anywhere that sells magazines. Does the league? Can you buy a digital single issue from the league?
The interesting thing is that's a member benefit. They don't really consider it a magazine. They consider it a member benefit. So it's just part of the member's benefit.
Oh, so you can't really buy this on?
Yeah, as far as I know. I've never seen it sold anywhere else.
When I first got into it in the mid 90s, you couldn't.
I remember I was going to say right on that. I said it recently. I've not seen it being able to be sold, but you're right. It used to have a price on it.
Yep. That was like $4 or something like that. What's David say here? All right. So we got a new one participating in the field day. That's excellent.
It's going to be a lot of fun, David. Is your club going out, or a few people, or?
we'll give him a minute to respond to that. Field Day is always, it's the greatest event of the year. It was so great. They even said, let's do one in the winter.
Yep. I think Mark did that. Didn't you do a winter field day?
I have not operated Winter Field Day. I have made field day visits. And I just saw a response from David. He's going to be with the fellas down at the Greenwood Club,
Sounds great.
W4GWD. Yeah, I've done some visits in Winter Field Day. The advantage is you're not sweltering. The weather is much more amenable to field day operation in January than it is in June.
I'm not sure how I can mute, but I got a call here. Can you mute me, please?
Okay.
And now he's muted.
All right.
Bill.
Well, before we run out of time, I don't want to get off kilter, off schedule. Do we want to talk about field day visits at all? What's going on? Who's going where, and who's doing what to whom?
And you want to toss that to me?
Well, yeah, Bill. Yeah.
Okay.
Start us off.
First of all, for all those on who are seeing my grandiose title, a lot of people don't know necessarily who I am or what the function is of vice director. It reminds me of that old story. A mother had two sons. One became a sailor and went to sea. The other became vice director of Roanoke Division of ARL. Neither was heard from again.
Question.
So,
Aren't you the director of Vice? So wouldn't that be like the greatest?
yes, I've heard that one before too. So, or as Dr. Jim likes to say, an heir and a spare, just in case at the board. So, yes, in the four sections which comprise the Roanoke Division, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia, I'll let you, Mark, discuss South Carolina. We have a new section manager in the Virginia section, Jack Smith, KE4LWT, and he's going to be spending some time in southwestern Virginia this year, an area that has not had a visit from an ARL official in quite a long time. West Virginia section manager, Dan Ringer, K8WV, yeah, will be between his hometown of Morgantown, where West Virginia University is located, down to the Charleston area. And then Marv Hoffman, WA4NC, the North Carolina section manager, will be in Western North Carolina. I myself will be spending time approximately, I will not be getting to the Palmetto State this year. I'm sorry to say. Some of you may remember before the pandemic, I called on several places over in the upcountry. I'm drawing a blank.
Upstate low country.
Yeah, upstate about 3 years ago. But this year I'll be concentrating on I-40 from Winston-Salem going eastbound. So, but keep your eyes open at your field day site. If you do get a representative from ARL, it's not worth extra points, but it's a chance to meet the people who represent you. And I hope you'll spend some time engaging with them. And we who represent you in ARL are very appreciative of those clubs who are making the effort this year to have a public location.
Thanks, Bill. The last comment you made is one that is often an afterthought when people are thinking about field day. Part of the rationale of field day is to demonstrate what we can do when things are not normal, some kind of emergency situation, what our capabilities are. And in order to demonstrate it, you've got to be in a public venue somewhere. And I have visited some field day sites where in South Carolina, where I thought I was going to need a passport. In a couple cases, I thought I was going to need a couple of lumberjacks to go with me to take down some trees so I could get through. That's great, but it, to some degree, is not consistent with the spirit of field day. So I'm hoping that folks will take advantage of field day this year and go someplace where they can demonstrate amateur radio to the public at large. If you stop and think about it, 1 out of every 500 U.S. citizens is a licensed amateur. That is 0.2%. That is a very small number. If you grab 500 people at random anywhere in the United States, you would expect exactly 1 to be licensed. So that means we don't have many opportunities. There aren't a whole bunch of us relative to the U.S. population, and we don't have that many opportunities to showcase what we're about. And Field Day is probably the best one, and I hope people think about that as they're running Field Day this year. Be visible. Let people in the community know that you're there. If you go to some remote mountaintop somewhere that requires 4-wheel drive to get in and out, I'm not saying that I won't show up. I probably will, but a lot of other folks from the community may not be able to do it. So think about that when you're looking for a Field Day site.
Mark, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I think it's very critical to have a public location, because since the advent of cell phones, amateur radio is now at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And it's important that Field Day is really the one true nationwide opportunity per year that we get a chance to show ourselves off. And think about who your external constituents could be. It's one, brand new hams who really have no HF experience. It's a chance for them to get out. 2, and this is a big one, especially in South Carolina, and that is inactive hams who may have become licensed or were active up through the 90s, had careers and family, and guess what? They still have an FM analog rig that can activate repeaters. And so they want to come out. If they relocate or retire to South Carolina, they want to find out what the local club is. If you're in a public place, they can find you. If you're not, there's a missed opportunity possibly to get a new member. Don't forget served agency representatives, Red Cross, Salvation Army, faith-based groups in your area. The media, oh my goodness, thank goodness we have our South Carolina Public Information Coordinator on board tonight to remind us that the public will not know who we are unless we get out there. And then, of course, government officials. Remember, if you're a ham and you're applying to the local planning board or zoning board for that variance to put up a tower, and you're going to use the PRB1 regulation exemption, wouldn't it be nice if the people to whom you're applying know who you are and maybe made a Field Day visit? Back to you, Mark.
Bill, thank you. I think it covers the topic from sea to shining sea, as they say. Field Day, as Bill said, Field Day is the biggest amateur radio event of the entire year, and it's an event that all clubs participate in to some degree. Some folks will have a large turnout. They will operate from 2:00 in the afternoon, Saturday right through to Sunday afternoon, either 2 or 5, depending on how they set up. Others, they'll start at 2:00. There'll be a barbecue at 6. Everybody goes home. That's okay too. The important thing is you're out there and you're available to the public. I mean, think about it. This is our opportunity to show the public who we are and what we do. And given the fact that there are only several 100,000 of us out of a population of 330 million, it's an opportunity that we need to take advantage of. So hopefully folks will do that. In terms of visits in the state of South Carolina, there will be, well, let me stop for a second. Gordon, are you going to be out making any visits this year?
I plan on it. The question is, will I be able to get time off from work? We're a little bit short of help. My plan is to go down to Hilton Head and work my way up the coast. That is subject to change. If the Charleston clubs aren't having Field Day, which I've just emailed them to ask, then I'll consider going back up to Rock Hill, Columbia, Sumter, and Florence, and
Okay.
Camden. So
All right.
I'm staying flexible this year.
Yeah,
Well-
on the locator, there's only about 12 South Carolina field day locations on there right now. Was that right? The last I looked, it was 12. That sound about right?
Well, when I looked last night, there were 9. So I'm glad there are 12.
Okay.
That means
Well,
people are.
you looked after I did, so it might just be 9.
Okay, Gordon.
I'll check that out though, right now.
Gordon, I think the way this is going to work, Brad is going to do visits along the upstate I-85 corridor. And I imagine he'll check in on the Y-Cars group as he leaves town. And I imagine his next stop after that will be Anderson. And then he'll work his way back towards Rock Hill. I will be heading down I-77. One of my first visits will, if it turns out there's a field day operation in Chester or Lancaster County, I'll stop there. Then Kershaw, the Kershaw County Amateur Radio Club over in Camden. Then I'll visit the folks in Columbia. In fact, I was very fortunate this afternoon to talk to Jim Lathan, president of the Columbia Amateur Radio Club, and he invited me, and I thanked him, and I plan on being there. And after that, my plan, and I think it may change now since you've already volunteered to go to Hilton Head, my plan was to continue on down to Barnwell. The Salkehatchie group usually does something for field day at the EOC there in Barnwell, and then take a hard left turn for Buford. But Gordon, it sounds like I may not have to do that. You may already be there.
Yeah, I kind of want to see the PIOs in those areas. Not sure if we're going to have anything to worry about this year, not in the tropics, but I want to get a little bit of FaceTime with them. Interesting side note, the Bluffton City Emergency Manager, it used to be in upstate. He and I took the PIO JIC FEMA class back in 2017. And when he moved down to Buford, he contacted me and asked if I knew of any hams down there. Put him in touch, and they had an expo earlier in May, and the Buford Club, and I believe Hilton Head also participated in it. So they're making some progress.
So I just checked, and as you can see there are 10 in South Carolina listed now. We got Rock Hill, Camden, Anderson, Spartanburg, Columbia. Is that Bluffton, Buford, Travelers Rest, which is the Greer Club, Wedgefield, and Conway. So somebody added something, so that's good.
Yeah, there's I see a marker that wasn't there last night near Sumter, south of Sumter. Which club is that? Is that the Sumter Amateur Radio?
Stand by.
And I see Tammy's comment. She is providing some details on the Columbia Amateur Radio Club's field day operation. Thanks, Tammy. Yeah, I talked to Jim today, and he told me you guys were at Sesquicentennial State Park. Said you were. I didn't ask when he said we're in the primitive camping area. I assume that that meant probably no cabins, but it'll be interesting, and that'll be something very much in the spirit of field day, going out into the wider world and demonstrating amateur radio. And the park is open, so people can visit the park, and hopefully you'll be able to get some members of the public to come, and you'll have an opportunity to share what you're doing. Thank you, George. I wondered if that was Sumter, and it is. So I'll add them to my list. I'll be sort of running right down through the middle of the state. And Gordon, if you're going to go to Hilton Head, that's great. I'm not going to lie to you. That saves me a bucket full of driving. And instead I may take a different route, go to Charleston, and then maybe swing up to Myrtle Beach. and see what they're doing up there. I haven't seen anything on the map yet, but I'll reach out to them and see if they've got something going at the Grand Strand Club, and maybe I can get up there and visit them. I have not been in that part of the state in a couple of years, so that'll be something different for me.
Their plan is to definitely operate overnight this year, or at least that was the plan last month. Whether it happens again, we'll see.
Okay, that's fine. I'll reach out to them, Gordon, and see what their schedule is, and then kind of plan my itinerary around trying to get up there. And it'll actually be a lot easier if I don't have to go to Hilton Head. That's a great bunch of folks down there at Sun City, but it's in the southeastern corner of the state. You throw a stone and you're in the Peach State, even though all the peaches come from South Carolina. Somehow Georgia stole that honor. Yeah, so if I only have to go to Charleston, then I can take a left and run through Georgetown and head up to Myrtle Beach. That would be a good thing. The important thing is we'll try to visit as many field day sites as possible. And to anyone who's listening, if your club is going to do something for field day, please put it out on that field day locator page. That is very important because that's the tool we use to finalize our itineraries.
Also, be sure you get it out on social media. Tag us, ARRLSC, and also use the hashtag ARRLFD. It's ARRLFD 2020 or 2022. I'll look that up.
Hey, Mark, while we're people are getting ready for field day, I'd like to pass on something that is not in the field day material, which should be, and it gets a lot of frustration every year, and that is pictures of youth on field day. Nothing gets hams more excited than the chance to put a minor in front of a microphone for field day and watch the excitement in their eyes as they make a DX contact. The problem is that due to privacy laws, pictures of minors, meaning 18 and under, cannot legally be published without a release form. And ARRL does have such a release form, but it's not part of the field day packet. If you go to ARRL.org and type in the words model, MODEL, model release, you'll see the one-page PDF. I suggest that a lot of clubs go ahead and print those out. And so if you get a kid who is enthusiastic and you get some good pictures, have the parents sign that form. And every year QST gets lots and lots of photos of kids, but because no model release accompanies the picture, they cannot be published.
That's a good point, Bill. Thank you. I think it's important whenever we can to show the contribution that youth are making to amateur radio. And there's nothing worse than having somebody having a great afternoon operating a go-to station and you don't have the release, and now the video or the still photography can't be used. That's, yeah. We need to make sure that folks get that release. In fact, Brad, should I find a way to get something out on the webpage so they can go right to it?
Yeah, either that or we can link to it. I mean, it's on. I'll send you the link. It's arrl.org/field-day, and that'll take you to all the field day info stuff and all that stuff will be in there. So a lot of those things is probably just good to go ahead and download and have. Maybe a few things you want to print if you're going to be out there, but have access to it.
The model release may not be inside the field day section. That may be outside, and you just have to put those keywords in the search engine.
Okay, we can try to track those down and make those a little easier to find too.
Yeah, we'll throw a link on arrlsc.org. Yes, George Mudd. It's good advice. Carry them with you, and you can deal with the release issue right on the spot.
Yeah. But
okay.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, well, that was George. He I appreciate him providing that insight. Well, Brad, we're at almost T-minus 12 minutes. Let's see what else is on our agenda this evening. Billy is under the weather, so we're not going to get an update from the section emergency coordinator. We haven't really picked up very many questions yet on field day. So I hope that means that everybody has looked through all the field day materials and they are on top of this and they are going to be ready to go come that magical Saturday on the 4th weekend in June. The other alternative would be people have not been paying any attention to it and have no idea what's going on. I'm not really comfortable with that one.
It could go either way.
Well, it'll probably go both ways. There'll be a little bit of both there.
In a perfect world.
One of the things I've got to do, I have 2 new hams in my household. My wife's sister and her husband are now living with us. And so I've got to get them squared away because they, in the past, I would have gone up to Ohio to operate field day with them. And now they're down here. So before I leave to go off on my visits, I'll see if I can get them squared away and on the air and get them making a few contacts. That way they'll have a chance to stay active. That's one of the other values of field day is it brings out people who may not get on the air any other time of year. And so in that sense, it's good because it gets people out, gets them to twist the knobs and actually make a contact. That's very, very important.
And Mark, may I jump in on that point?
Bill, you can jump in anytime you want.
Well, I don't want to hijack things, but one of the common complaints that Jim and I hear is, and this comes from new hams and hams returning to the hobby after a long absence. I may have said this earlier, but I want to emphasize it. If your club lists a talk-in frequency, such as on 2 meters or 440, please make an effort to monitor that. And if you close down your site early, that's okay. But could a club member please monitor the talk-in frequency until the end of field day at 2 p.m. on Sunday? And the reason is that new hams and inactive hams don't know necessarily that you've closed down your operation. They try to come in on the repeater and say, hey, I'd like to find out more about field day, and nobody gets to them. And you've lost a potential member. So I know it can be somewhat cumbersome, but do try to pick up any traffic that comes in on a local repeater you designate as the talk-in frequency.
That's very important. That goes back to field day is a chance to demonstrate who we are and what we do. It's a great way to engage hams that have not been active in some period of time. It's also a great way to engage people who are thinking about amateur radio. What better way to kind of get them across the finish line than to let them see what happens at field day when people are busy, making contacts, having a good time. So yes, I think it's important if you have a field day site, and make sure you monitor your repeater. If you say you've got talk-in, you better have talk-in. Because the flip side of that is somebody's kind of interested in amateur radio, and then they go out to the field day site and there's nothing there, or they don't find anything on the web page or in social media saying that the field day event is over, and then they move on to something else. They think, wow, these just how it is.
That's a good idea. Bring that up if you're. For the non-hams, go ahead and post that on your Facebook page. Yep. or tweet that out that, hey, we're going to be closing at such and such time. That doesn't take but a second.
It doesn't take but a second, and I'm always amazed by the power of social media. It is, it's a force to be reckoned with. But
we're on 3 different platforms right now. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So
wow, so that means I get to be wildly inadequate in 3 different venues simultaneously
in 3 languages.
That's a whole new level of incompetence for me. Thank you. Wow.
Oh man. So Bill, you said you're taking the I-40. You're heading out. You said Winston and heading west.
No, east.
Oh, heading. I was about to say, if you're heading west, that's going to be a long night.
No,
Now,
no.
I talked to Marv last night. Well, Bill did, and Marv's going to do the western half of the state.
Well, since he's in Boone, that makes sense. Yeah, I have to go to Boone on Thursday. I have to go up to App State and give a presentation.
Well,
We'll be doing.
And I will return to the Palmetto State in the future.
There we go.
Well,
Another
be-
two saying he's going to move back south.
On a full year in the 4 states that Jim and I represent, I think the highest number we ever had for field day were 161 publicly available field day club sites.
Wow.
And a lot of those clubs would love to see you Saturday afternoon between 2 and 5 p.m. On a really extremely productive weekend, I might hit, my record is 11 field day club sites. The average is about 7. So if you do the math, I tell everybody I will probably get to you by the year 2038.
I was just thinking about field day visits. My record is 10, and that was June of 2011. And I think some of you know what happened just a few weeks later. I haven't
Did that a bit.
Say what?
You overdid that one just a bit.
Ish.
Shit catches up with you, man.
Yeah, well, you know.
Oh, that's another good thing. Sunscreen. If you're going to be out, have protective gear. Have all the stuff that you're going to need. First aid kits. That's on the safety checklist. You need to be sure you got that.
Yeah. And
Bless you.
thank you. Sunscreen is important. I go a step farther. I have an assortment of hats because I have very little protection naturally from the sun, and I got to do the best I can. And a broad brim planter's hat does a great job of keeping the sun off your head and shoulders. So there you have it.
An umbrella hat if it's going to be raining.
You first.
Yeah. George makes a good point. Bug spray. You're absolutely right. Keep the mosquitoes away, my Lord. Because you know it's going to be humid. And it's probably going to rain at some point. Every time I go to Spartanburg, there's some god-awful thunderstorm right about the time I'm pulling out. Every time I've been down there.
Yeah, it's been a while since I did the I-85 route, but I remember stopping at Spartanburg, and I timed my trip so that I'd get there at dinner time because
they got the best food.
Oh my God!
Also, about leaving Anderson, there's always a thunderstorm, and you're trying to stay in front of it.
And I guess you also get the sweet tea from the Beacon.
Oh, that's not sweet tea. That's
syrup,
like just sugar,
syrup,
and water. That stuff. If you're not diabetic, it'll make you one.
Spartanburg does seem to have the best food. Every time I've been up there, it's like shrimp. There's a quiche. I don't know, so many desserts. Oh my God! And then Charleston probably has the most unique place. I mean, how many people do you know on a aircraft carrier?
Yeah, well, it turns out Charleston's really probably the only place you could do that, and they do leverage it. I went there one year and I walked in and nobody. This is part of the irrelevance of the whole section manager gig. I showed up at the Yorktown and was on the deck heading towards the field day site, and somebody grabbed me. They thought I was their replacement, and I wound up operating CW on 40 meters for about 20 minutes. It's WA4USN, and Rick Valentine, who was the field day chair, he sticks his head in to see what's going on, and he sees me there, and he just looks at me and says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, somebody told me to operate and get a 40-meter CW, so I did it." There was, hopefully I didn't screw up too bad. And Tammy is right. You can get your steps in visiting the Charleston site, because I don't care where you park. There's no such thing as parking close to an aircraft carrier. It's 50,000 tons of metal that's almost 9 times denser than water. Somehow it floats, but the thing is huge. And that's a World War II era aircraft carrier. I mean,
That's
modern-
a diesel boat too, right? That's still diesel.
yeah, that I don't know if it's diesel or Brayton cycle, some kind of turbine. But the important thing is it's not nuclear. That's still still a bunker oil fired boat. But yeah, that one definitely requires some walking. Wear sneakers and make sure they know you're coming, because if they don't know you're coming, they'll just assume you're part of their field day operation, and they might put you to work.
You get great experience walking down those naval steps backwards.
Yeah, because they almost resemble ladders, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, you can't use it like a regular ladder. You have to do it backwards and run your arms down the rails, just like in the movies.
Yeah. Every time I'm on a naval vessel, it makes me really happy that I spent my military time in the Air Force. Oh,
Well, gentlemen, I have just been brought a scotch. So, what else we got?
we got nothing, and we have 45. 50
Gordon's got
seconds.
something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got one thing. I don't know if the PR committee is going to be having their annual briefing for public information officers or not. But if any PIOs have any questions about field day, feel free to email me, whiskey4echogolfmike@outlook.com. I'll be happy to talk with you in the evening. If you've got any questions or anything. One of the biggest changes this year is you can't just send out a press release. There has to actually be coverage because of it to get the points.
Yep.
So that was one big changes I noticed. That's all I got.
I would say to all the clubs that are thinking about getting points for that press release, you might want to grab somebody from your local newspaper, take them to lunch, and establish a bit of a relationship so that when you provide that press release, even though it probably won't make the front page, even if it's back, on page 17 in section Q, it's still in there. And by all means, use social media as well. That's another valid way to get a press release published. And sometimes we think very traditionally, we got to get it in the newspaper or maybe on local radio news. Social media is another way to distribute a press release. And it's these days, it's probably the one that will get more play than the local newspaper or even local radio. David, thanks very much. It's good to have you with us, and good luck with the gang in Greenwood. I don't know that we'll try somehow to work Greenwood in. I can't say for sure, but if it can happen, it will. All right, Brad, we are now 66 seconds over the deadline. Anything else?
All right. I think we got it covered. Anybody else? Jim, Bill?
I want to thank everybody for coming in this evening, and this is a real unique. This town hall is a really unique way to speak with members, and I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Same here.
Thank you, sir. After the first one, we had an after action meeting and we decided it didn't suck. And
It didn't suck that bad.
Yeah,
It didn't suck that bad.
We try to set the bar as high as we can, right?
well,
Yeah,
we know we couldn't have set it lower.
right around knee level. Right around knee level.
So we're trying to get better at this, and hopefully we will. At least we don't think we're getting worse. That's the first step. Don't get worse. And once you got it nailed, then you can start to get better. Anyway, thanks to everyone this evening who joined us, and appreciate all the comments. David, George, and the others.
And
I look
Tammy.
forward to say what?
And Tammy.
And Tammy. Look forward to seeing all of you hopefully at some point during field day. And if not, certainly as things open up, I'll be making more visits to clubs during their normal meetings. May get a chance to catch up with some of you then. That's all I have. 73 to everybody in the South Carolina section. And finally, I have to thank the other folks who are with me tonight. I absolutely could not do this without them, any of them. And I am grateful that they are all willing to give up a little bit of their precious time to share it with us this evening. Jim, Bill, Brad, Gordon, thank you. And I look forward to doing it again 3 months from now.
Yep. All right,
With
you guys stick around when we close out. Then we'll
All right,
talk
sir.
a couple of minutes. So go ahead.
With that, 73 and good night.